Well, I want to welcome everybody to the Rushfield Lunch. This is this is our second installment. It's a weekly gathering doing here at this time every week, although next week it'll be an hour late, so when we have a very special guest joining us. But generally, at this time every week, where I'm going to have in the great thinkers of our time, artists, craftspeople, business people, the man on the street who may be a great thinker too. And we're going to be talking about the important issues of our day. Last week we were joined by producer Ted Hope, and we talked about the future of entertainment. This week we have something even more important. We're talking about Traitors, the most the most important show on TV, certainly the most important reality show on TV, which has upended reality programming as we know it. And to talk about that, I have the two greatest traders thinkers I think there are. I have my colleague here at the Ankler, Katey Rich. Thank you for
Hello.
joining us, Katey.
I'm so excited to be in your turret.
And the great Emily Yoshida, longtime critic, observer of the culture, and now a maker of entertainment as a writer of a little show you may have heard of called Shogun, which makes her an award-winning writer, I believe. What
I have
award?
one, and now I can actually technically I have won an award now, but Shogun has won many awards, and I have one.
You guys already discussed how the characters of Shogun would do on the Traitors, because now it's kind of all I can think about. I assume
I tried to get my fellow writers to watch this show so hard. I'm just like, because I am just like, I want to go on a whole tangent about something that happened on UK season 2 for like some plot that we were doing for this past season. I'm like, I'm just going to out myself as such a nerd, and nobody here will know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it feels like it should be required viewing for any show that involves plotting and backstabbing.
Yeah. I'm just imagining like Carolyn and Toranaga in the turret and how that would go.
Oh my god.
I mean,
like he would let her flail. He would do the opposite of Danielle and be like, Carolyn, take the wheel. And then when it was clear that she had nothing that she wanted to do, then he would become the de facto leader, I think.
I think he would wait until the end. I think he would just he would sort of be the background trader and just float along and make it seem like not paying attention, and then at the very last second would kill all his fellow traders and take it.
Like that was Cerie's move in season 1, right? Where like she just
is such a tornado
the whole time, and she backstabbed at the very end. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Which is the correct way to play, by the way. Yes. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's start at the end here. We just concluded Traitors US season 3. Real Traitors fans know that the US universe is just a small part of it, that we're taking in the other countries. But what did you both think? Emily, you start. What do you think
about the season as a whole?
This season, how did it go? What do you think of the outcome? They're very controversial ending.
Sure.
A lot of feelings. I have many of them.
I would compare it to a pretty good like empty carb this season. There was so much like really, really fun drama up top. You had so many big personalities this season. Like I do think that if they're going to do the celebrity casting thing, this feels like, a new high watermark for it. But I think that once those very easily produced and engineered and set up fireworks had gone off, there was not a ton left over. I still think I think it was engaging and interesting. I think the second to last episode was really, really great, and that was the cliffhanger one that drove a lot of people crazy. Like they still know how to make it a good show, but I think that like putting these huge like reality contestant people like Boston Rob in there, I think it's got limited returns on it, and I think hopefully they've learned a little bit from that this year.
Katey, what did you think of season 3 of I'm sorry. I haven't been talking Scottish yet. Also,
Oh,
Katey,
because you're
Katey
so good
Rich.
Yeah,
at it.
What did you think on season 3
my
finale?
ancestors, the
I,
McGugans, are over in their graves.
okay.
Um, no, I love the big personalities on it, and then there was this remarkable thing, and I don't know how you control for it, where they got all of the big personalities out right away. Like the men, I don't remember if Boston Rob was the last one, but somewhere very soon you realize like all that was left was like, for lack of a better word, like the beta males of Dylan and Ivar and Sam and whoever. And like I don't know how you avoid that when you've got all those big personalities clashing with each other. I mean, I was very entertained by the finale because I loved Gabby. I think she was kind of the real
Yeah,
saving grace of those winners. Like,
yeah.
otherwise, you got Dolores and Dylan, who is honestly adorable, like, kind of the breakout star of the season, but is not dramatic in any way. And then Ivar, who will go back to being rich and British and doesn't seem to have been changed at all by this process. But
Yeah.
that's a boring quartet of winners compared to what you could have had.
But I will
Especially
say, if this
what?
season did nothing else but bring Gabby Wendy into my life, then it was a
Mm-hmm.
success. Like, and I
Yeah.
do think, yeah, her and Dylan are probably the biggest breakouts from the season. And I think, like, deservingly so. I think that Gabby was playing a smarter game than anybody gave her credit for, which is why when all the big personalities were out, we're like, well, I guess it's all the quiet people, but we didn't know. Gabby had just been there this whole time, being
Yep.
brilliant, having half of her confessional stuff cut out. So, yeah.
Forgetting that Ivar was present in the room.
Yeah.
Um, so the problem with this season, it was sort of a victim of its casting success. That you had these giants of Survivor and Housewives and other shows, and they played traitors on Survivor strategy, which is immediately get out the strongest people, and which is how you do Survivor. The anyone who sticks their head up and looks strong, and that is what happened in the first half of the season. That all the serious that you had two people, Boston Rob and Bob the drag queen, uh, eliminated all the serious contenders, all the people that we thought were really going to be mixing it up, and then they themselves were both eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
And so, is that a strength or a weakness of the show?
It, I think that it's tough. It's like a weird science, right? You have to get the right. You want some big personalities in there, but you can't have them at odds with each other, or else they'll cancel each other out. Which is exactly what happened with Bob and Rob. And it was wildly entertaining for the couple episodes that whole thing was unfolding. But then then they're out. Like I think that the great pleasures of the non-celebrity seasons of other franchises of the show is that people don't know who's a big personality or not based on prior awareness of their public persona. And so people really get to make up who they are in the game and adjust for the wind, a bit like, oh, it seems like it would be useful to have a kind of ringleader here and that I could actually like have a lot of, well, then you become that person. Whereas like if you're Bob the drag queen, you have to come on and you have to be Bob the drag queen, as he said many many times. It's like, or else people will think it's weird. And you can't escape from being the big or small personality that you're known to have.
You are a
Well, that's where
prisoner
like
of
the
your persona.
housewives, the housewives have so much power in this game because they're known personalities, but they don't have any kind of gamer strategy. So like Fedra flies under the radar, like despite having this great personality, because like no one expects her to have it. I guess Carolyn sort of functions in the same way. It's like a
Mm-hmm,
big
mm-hmm.
personality in a different kind of way, but like they can only go so far because like the thing that like I don't know if this is a flaw in the game because we can talk about the actual challenges, but like in the beginning, especially when they just have no information to go on whatsoever, like anyone who attracts attention is just immediately going to get cut down. And it's hard to get around that unless you structure the game in a way that like encourages them to keep sort of these ringleaders in the game.
Yeah.
So let's take a step back, and then I want to get granular, do a deep dive, as they say, into this season. But for starters, for those of us for our lunch buddies here who may not be Traitors watchers, and for all people who take this seriously, uh, both of you tell me why do you think this show is the most important show on TV? Certainly now, if not ever. And why would you tell somebody that not just that they should watch it, but that they need to watch it? Katey, start with you.
I mean, as someone who's not watched most of these other reality shows, I don't have time for it in my diet. Like, it's kind of my skeleton key for understanding the world of reality TV. Like, I know more about Big Brother, Housewives, Survivor, The Challenge, like all of these other adjacent shows, as well as like, wherever Sam Asghari comes from, by watching it. It's like shorthand. Like and then if I talk to my friends who do watch these shows, it's like, oh, we like Gabby because she did X and Y. So it's kind of like the maximum reality show fireworks you get for your energy, and it's really entertaining on its own.
Yeah. I think that there's something about a show that's completely about lying and deception, but that the point of
Yes.
view of the show is such that you can see, like, the fact that we essentially have the point of view of the traitors throughout, and we see how it's all working and how the tides of this herd mentality are going. I think that there's something very cathartic for people, not to get like too on the nose topical or whatever, but in like a world of no consensus reality, to like have a microcosm of how these things happen and just see, in a more or less harmless setting, despite aside from all the murder, um,
Mhm.
like kind of just see how it goes down. And I think like I think there's something soothing about it, kind of in the way that I feel like true crime is soothing to some people, not me, where it's like you see the beast for what it is in this really controlled environment.
Yeah. So I think that gets at the correct answer here, Emily, which is
Oh, there was a correct
uh,
answer. I didn't realize
yes,
we were
there
being
was,
quiz.
there was, and
Okay.
you both approached it, but did not get it precisely. The correct answer is that all reality shows, um, they all have this thing where they strive to be about something bigger than the game, and you have the cliche, "I'm not here to make friends," but they are here to make friends in the end, because that's the person who's not there to make friends never wins, and it's like it's about being nice, and it's about being true to myself as I play the game, and being honorable and learning and growing in my whole journey. And this is the one show that sort of embraces this is a reality show. Your job is to win, and the path to winning is through deception and deceit. And to be as dishonorable as there's no honorable path to winning Survivor except for
Well, you don't think that Dylan did the honorable victory on the Traitors by just being the faithful all along?
I think Dylan. I think we will talk about it, but I think Dylan and I think all of them basically got lucky, and I think none of them actually won this season. I think they lucked into $50,000 each, and they are not true victors. And in fact, if I were the producer of the show, Mr. Lambert, there, I would refuse to pay them their winnings. I would say sue me. And
They don't need the money is the other thing. Like we talk about the game itself. Like the problem with these all-star celebrity things is like for them, like $50,000 before
50,000.
taxes is like nothing.
yeah, so
Yeah. I mean, so well, what you say though about you don't think that Dylan or Gabby, and look, I think we're all in agreement about Dolores and Ivar, but
yeah.
I think it's arguable that Dylan and Gabby really earned the winnings as faithfuls, give in the position that they had to play in. They made it through to the end, and that's hard. Like it's objectively harder to be a faithful than it is to be a traitor in this game because you don't know anything. But like that, the fact that that's your impression and that's your takeaway from the game
Yeah.
is, I think, one of the bigger problems with the show right now, which is a whole other category we can get into of just like production and storytelling for a game like this. I think that it's really interesting. So many of these shows have been on for so many years and have had like so many alterations to the game, and they've figured out how to just like calibrate it just right to work the way they want. And Traitors is still this sort of wild and sort of very woolly show that feels like it has a lot of kinks to be ironed out. And I actually think that's like kind of the compelling meta reason to watch it, in addition to like the show itself is very entertaining. But I do think that like the fact that you perceive that Dylan, for example, didn't know that any of the people that he was friends with were traitors and was sort of, whisked along,
Yes.
blithely throughout the entire thing. I think like there's now been plenty of evidence to suggest in other interviews that like he did know about Carolyn and Danielle at the very least. And that's not shown to us on the show. We don't get to see that side of Dylan. The Dylan they choose to show us is just sweet, babe in the woods, doesn't know what's going on. And I just think that like going forward, I think they need to find a way to be able to like show us the whole picture.
I don't think, but I don't think Dylan's. I mean, I think he truly was the battered wife of this season. That he
You
kept.
love to say that. It's like
I do.
the most appropriate phrase ever to describe.
He just kept trusting people who were betraying him and using him every step of the way.
They weren't betraying him though. They were like keeping him protected. They did great by
he was
Dylan.
so protected because he had an excellent social game and was in that way. I don't think that was an accident. I think that
I feel like like the assumption has been that if you've put on the show the traitor angel strategy that like people call it, like where they cut like someone like cozies up to someone they know as a traitor, even if the traitor hasn't told them, they just figure it out and then use that to get out of the way. Like the idea is that it breaks the game, right? Because they're supposed to be like single-mindedly trying to suss out the traitors. But like, why not let that be part of the show? Like it's not like the traitors are actually doing anything to harm anybody. Like it feels like it could be a fun meta level and wouldn't like break the format of the show as they have it.
Yeah. But they need to figure out how to tell that story, because right now the producers are pretending it's a show where it's just a bunch of faithfuls trying to figure out who the traitors are and get them out of the castle. But you know that not everybody in that game is playing it that way. They are playing Traitors Angel, which is a equally interesting but different game that like should be.
I think they could push them harder in the confessional to say what's really going on here. What are you really? Because I think they're in the confessional. They're sort of describing what you see on face value, and they're not saying what's really happening. So,
but I think they would have to know that they could admit it and not be like kicked out for cheating or like have the audience turn on them, right? Like the show has to structure in a way where you can still love Dylan even if he's playing that way.
Yeah, well, it's not cheating. It's like a way to get to the end, and I think like I think it has to step out of its level one. It's funny because I've been calling things in terms of like level 1, level 2, level 3 gameplay, and then I was listening to an interview with Boston Rob where he was talking about it in the same terms. So I'm like, okay, I feel like I have the right idea of the terminology.
You've become Boston Rob pilled.
Yeah, kind of. I don't know. I never watched any season of anything he's been on. This was my, like you're saying, like this was my introduction to Boston Rob.
How did you? I go way back with Boston Rob.
Yeah,
Boston Rob and we have a lot of history, a lot of roads. So it's hard for me to think clearly. How do you both respond to Boston Rob on he wears the backwards baseball cap. He has a goatee. He's the inventor of the showmance. He's the inventor. On Survivor, he went to the end. He with the woman who would become his wife, and then sacrificed himself and urged everyone to vote for her instead. Threw the game to her. Proposed on the finale. They remained married with three children, and then came back and won in a subsequent season, and was a dominating presence on this game. How do you both respond to him?
I feel like he really felt a lot like CT last season, who I also didn't really know that much about. He's just kind of like not dumb. Like they obviously have a lot of strategy, but just kind of like hunky like dudes who are in their 40s and like have been on TV a really long time and know all of their angles and how to play the game, but are kind of endearing despite all of it. Like it's not he didn't have this thing that like Wes or the other cage boy, I don't remember his name, that where they were like, I'm the greatest player to ever do it. Like he's kind of like sheepish, like everyone knows I'm out to get them. I guess I am. Like it's very appealing. You can like see why he and Dylan kind of like got along so well. And then whenever the challenge was where they got the bugs dumped on their head, and who was he paired with? He was paired with someone who
Sierra.
Was like, yeah. Like
and
he was so endearing in that part of it.
Talking her through it, like we can do this. We're gonna do.
Like
you're gonna be okay.
Some people like were like is very girl dad, where like he's been used to like talking like girls through this kind of thing. So he really won me over. Like not trying to be anything other than like a snake in the grass who's trying to get everybody out, but like being so kind of upfront about it made it really appealing.
Yeah, he's very like honestly dishonest. I think for somebody who's logged as many hours on television as he has, I think the thing you have in common with, Survivor people are cast from, normalcy or whatever, as like the challenge people all come from the real world. And there's something that's very not Hollywood about them or really coastal at all. I mean, like CT is also from Boston, right? They both have these like they just feel so, even if they are reality people, they don't feel like Chriselle Staus or whatever from Selling Sunset. Like
Yeah.
or Tom. You know. And so in a way, even though they are these like master gamers or whatever, I think the reason that they keep getting cast in these things is more that they feel like somebody you might know in real life, or that a lot of people in America might know. And so there's something, even though they have the reputation behind them, in the moment you can feel like you're just watching a normal person, which is like fun.
I mean, I think a life lesson about Boston Rob, and that's what reality TV is about in the end. It's about these life lessons, and what we learn about people is that he's not. He is the master of manipulator, but he is not at all slick. He does not. He seems totally sincere. He doesn't seem like he has an agenda. He's operating. He just comes in and says, "Look, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not a traitor, and we've got a lot of reason to think it's her." So, and there's no. He just seems very straightforward. There's no. You cannot see any wheels turning. Like he doesn't. He's not impressing you with how smart he is every second of the day. And I think that if you can act like you're just sort of very one-dimensional, you can really conquer the world and
Yeah.
Do you think anyone
bend the
really
world to
did
your
think he
will.
was a traitor? Like talking about the traitor angel, he just was such an obvious traitor from the very beginning. From the moment they like rejected him, it just is hard for me to believe none of them thought he was a traitor until he got kicked out.
I think Dylan, Emily and I have argued about this. I think Dylan was so in love with Boston Rob that he couldn't bring himself to believe that he, despite all the evidence that.
I think that those who knew, I mean, look, I never saw any Boston Rob season of anything, but I know that he is an infamous player of these things. So if I'm cast with him and he shows up and I'm like, who's the guy in the backward baseball hat? That's Boston Rob. Oh shit. Like, I've got to be careful. I think wisely, even people who don't know how he plays are like, if I'm going to take my shot at him, I'm going to need a lot of people behind me. And nobody had that at the beginning. Like everybody was so disjointed at the beginning. So even if you did strongly suspect that Rob was a traitor, what are you going to do about it unless you have the backing of, 6 other people at that stage in the game? And I'm sure that a lot of people in the confessional probably said Boston Rob is probably a traitor. And for whatever reason, the folks at Studio Lambert didn't want to show us that. But I do believe that a lot of people probably did think he was. It's just the way that the game works.
Well, because they don't like the way the game is. You don't want to see like Dolores say I think Boston's a traitor and then vote for Tom instead, because it just makes her look even more ridiculous. And like, God bless Dolores, winning despite never being right about a single thing.
She was just there.
You don't want to make them look vindictive or make them look like they're like anything but the purest hearted faithfuls who are trying to get rid of the traitors, which is not really what any of them are doing.
No, yeah. They all signed up to be on the Traitors. All of them potentially knew they would have to be a traitor. That's what it's always so ridiculous to me about it whenever anybody is like, I just wouldn't have it in me. I couldn't do all this stuff. It's like,
they all want to
did
be
you
a
or
traitor.
did you not? Like, Claw have your rep calling every single producer that you could to get on the show. The casting of the show was such a huge story from last year because everybody and their brother wanted to be on the Traitors. So every D-list celeb, like the exact kind of people that are on the show, they all like, it was the hot ticket. Everybody knew this could make them into like what happened for Gabby or what happened for Dylan. Like you can really be a breakout from it. So like, but they have to know like, they have to have like, even if they didn't watch the season, which a lot of them clearly didn't, previous seasons, they have to know what's involved,
By the way, to our nearly 200 lunch buddies joining us here today, if you have any questions, you can write them in the bottom. We'll try and keep up and answer them, respond, but please hit our panel of Traitors experts with your toughest gotchas and zingers. We're ready for them.
Do the questions show up at the bottom here?
Yes,
Just
they will So you've got to
Yeah.
grab them. You've got to catch them quick while they
Yeah.
come in. So
Somebody
send them.
said quite a lot of blah blah. Okay.
That's what the Traitors is.
That's what Traitors is. A lot of bluster.
There is a lot of blah blah. But there's also so to bring it to the other major character of the season, who so for me the the theme of every reality show is ultimately um, is ultimately there are people who are tested and always want to deny that this is a reality show, and they want to say that this is something and can't accept that it's a game show they're playing. And as we said, they talk about their journey and all the on Traitors. It's a lot of the thing you get a lot is I have to be true to myself. I have to be honest to myself to play a game that's honorable. On this season, in the end, despite all the giant figures, was dominated by one person who very much did not seem to accept that this was a game show, and I'm referring to the figure of Danielle. And I just want to put out on the floor: did she ruin this season? Did she cost the show its Emmy because
She knew it
she
was a
screwed up
game
the season?
show. What are you talking about? She didn't know it was a game show. She's like
She
the most. She was playing the act of being a. She's poorly, in my opinion, but she was doing a whole act of being like, scared, nervous Nelly, and that was she was certainly, and she wanted the money, I think, more than a lot of people on the show did.
the breakdowns, the need to just have her friends near her, I mean, she was not playing rational game strategy. She was doing create at the end, and at the end, she essentially ruined the finale for us all, for me.
So
Why?
yeah, well,
But
she was not. I don't think she was playing well, but I think she was definitely playing like she knew she was playing a game. Like
so you
I just don't think she did a very good job of it. But I would never. There are people on there who are like, can't, like, it starts being real life for them, and they're like, oh my god, my friends are actually getting murdered. Like, not thinking about any kind of strategy beyond surviving to the next day. And I don't think she was like that. I will give her that.
so you don't think when she fell on the floor hysterically sobbing, that
She
was
was
authentic?
acting poorly.
No. Well, and
I
also,
think
you imagine that feels really high stakes in that moment. Like, even though she knows perfectly well that Carolyn is a traitor, like, she is like having to take a breath and like get over it. It was like way over the top. But like, why is that not just good reality show drama?
Yeah.
because it's bad gameplay, and I can't believe anyone were played that badly. We'll
It
get
was
to it.
bad gameplay because it made it clear she was a traitor.
Yes, because she at the end she brought in the person who was her best friend on the show, and it was obvious who the last traitor was. So they
That
were
was
all
the move
immediately,
that showed the
and
bad
then she
gameplay.
had and then
That
she
was
had
a
a big
bad move.
and then she
That's
had a
that's
big
different
fight with
though.
her
That's a
and
different
refused.
thing.
She refused to acknowledge her on the way out the door, and I mean, just the whole way she handled it. It was
Well, that's a time-honored tradition. Traitors burning other traitors as they get knocked off, which is a big problem with the game also. But
yeah.
I
We have a question here I want to get to. Claudio Salucci asks us, Bob the Drag Queen brought up a lot how she would have played the game as a faithful. Do we buy that? Do we think that the faithfuls always just eliminate the loudest in the room? Excellent question.
What
think
did
I
Bob
think
say about how he would play the game? I didn't see it.
I
um well, there was the comment in the reunion where he was like, whether I was a faithful craft services assistant director, I would have been this big of a personality, which I think is super valid. I think
Yeah.
that you have, I think consistency is more important than being like under the radar, but I think that under radar is certainly the easier game to play, especially in those early, like, first few weeks. So
Yeah.
he
because
could
it
have
would be
very
it
easily
would
been.
have been it would have been suspicious had he done otherwise.
Well, it's just, you can't also, like, if there's like 22 people, it's like you can't remember all of them in the first few days. So it's like, who made an impression on me, good or bad?
Yeah.
That person has now been like bookmarked in my, and could end up on the naughty or nice list, but they're on the radar versus somebody who, oh, I still not sure who that is yet. Like, I'm trying to remember their name. Like, you know.
Yeah, well, it's like they get rid of the big personalities. Like, they kind of like go off of nothing. Like, you know, Trishelle famously ousting Peppermint for no good reason. But then eventually, like, they turn on Nikki. They turn on, who else was in the boxes? Jeremy. Like, just people who, like, haven't really made an impression on the viewer at all. So, like, it's so haphazard in the very beginning. That's like, they do go for the big personalities in terms of, like, who like a Rob can successfully draw their attention to, but it can also be just as easy to be like, I have one theory that's completely incorrect that we're just going to follow down forever, and get rid of Nikki as a result.
So let's talk about, there was another traitor who also dominated this season, but was playing a very different kind of game, very different kind of goals. I speak of Tom Sandoval, who in the lead up was probably the most talked about member being casted, who had inspired. I was not familiar with him. I'm not a Vanderpump watcher, but has inspired. What would you call it? Just
He was
hatred.
America's most hated man for like summer.
And he went on Vanderpump Rules. He famously cheated on one Vanderpump for another, or how would you describe it?
No Vanderpumps, but just people who were employed by Vanderpump.
It was his coworker.
Server.
Yes. I mean, a fellow cast member who had been dating for 10 years and was living with. So, yeah.
So, and why we've seen people have affairs on reality TV before, not to be fair. Why was this so upsetting and shocking that Tom came with such a dark cloud over him onto the show?
Hey, everybody, go back and listen to my podcast, First to Breakfast, that I do with Richard Rushfield, where I have explained the Tom Sandoval drama many times. And I think the last time was the most concise that I did. But there's two reasons. Yes, cheating is a dime a dozen, especially on these reality shows. It's just what happens, and people don't have this sort of backlash against them. It was the fact that it was playing out like while they were in production on the season, so that you can go back. It made for a really amazing watch of the show because the news broke that he had been cheating on her with Rachel this whole season, and then the season starts, and we now know the whole time, like oh my god, look for the signs, like he's sneaking around. It just made for like a really fun, compelling thing. But then he did himself no favors, and I should say, like, we didn't even bring this up, but like he's like currently being sued by Rachel for revenge porn because he distributed videos that he made of the girl he cheated with to people, you know, third parties. Yeah, I mean, he's not. I think everybody needs to remember this. Like, yes, he was goofy Tom Sandoval, and he had his redemption arc on Traitors, and he made for really like good television. He is like a piece of shit. Like, he is not. And like, just I sent Richard just the Vanderpump reunion from the big season where this all happened, and he just like does himself no favors either. Like, it's one thing to be a human and to err and to, you know, all's fair in love and war and all of that, but he absolutely does himself no favors in that department. So that's why.
So he came onto the show of hated people, the most hated, to the point where other cast members wouldn't speak to him or look at him, and one of them voted for him every week, despite the fact that there was no evidence that he was a traitor, just because she seemed to hate him so much. And yet, on this season, he managed to transform himself from the reality TV's greatest villain to a lovable doofus who really gets excited about singing songs backwards and thinks he's doing well.
And it's a pleasure to have in class, as he said.
Exactly. And it was and to the point where, as he would say, I think I'm doing really well in this. And at the episode where they had to vote for like who was the biggest threat and who was the best, he would say I think it's me. And there was a part of I wouldn't say everyone, a part of many people that were like, oh, that's so nice. Tom gets to feel good. How do we feel about that whole arc?
I mean, it sounds like from what Emily's saying is that like the edit on this show made him into that lovable doofus, but then it's the minute he got out of the confines of the show, he it reminding everybody why he's a bad person again. So like I enjoyed Tom Sandoval immensely watching this show, but it's hard to contend with the real world after that. But like for making a good character, why not?
I will say that Tom Sandoval, just all his sins aside, like, you know, the one that's really gone underreported has been Ivar Mountbatten being on the board of the company that started Cambridge Analytica. That to me is far worse a crime than cheating on Ariana Madix. All apologies to Ariana and all you've been through, but I think that you know, Caroline Framke, who's also been on our podcast a couple times, brought this to my attention that, you know, he got a degree in geology and went straight into like mining in Venezuela. Like he's just like that level of evil person. So I'm sure he's having a ball with his 50K before taxes.
And with British taxes, that take home is not going to be. I wonder if their SAG fees are actually greater than the prize money.
Will they get appearance fees though? Like,
do they make more money just being on the show? But
I think that depends on the person. But I think a lot of them, it's like, sure, yeah, why not spend 2 weeks, make a few tens of Ks.
Yeah,
I would say guess that Ivar in the Cambridge Analytica board meetings was about as valuable to them as he was to the faithful this time, and
no, he's just upholding like, you know, the family business at that point. He's an automaton,
colonialism and pillaging of other countries.
Yeah, it comes second nature to him. I doubt he has even that much agency in it. But I think, you know, all things being equal, I would say that Ivar Mountbatten was the perhaps the most like wolf in sheep's clothing as far as how production treated him on the show.
I mean, you're talking about people who deny the premise of the show. The person there who just keeps saying, "Oh, I don't like drama. I don't try." Let's not let's not argue things that you're on a reality game show declaring like no drama, please. Let's talk about who of your for each of you who of all the traitors of all time, who's your favorite? Who's the character that you would who's the best performed? And
in
you
this
can go
season
beyond
or any
of any season. Who is the greatest traitor?
The greatest traitor. It's not on. It's not been on U.S. Traitors. The greatest traitor is not
well, tell us about them.
I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't watched. Well, I mean, I don't know. It's
Can they be traitors or can they be faithfuls? Are we spoiling or just talking about
for greatest cast member of the show?
Okay. I'm looking back over on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But
I'll start. I'm going to say even though she didn't win, that I think Parvati from last season, Parvati Shallow, or Poverty, however you say it. Parvati Shadow, Survivor's Black Widow, multiple parents. I think she had the right amount of evil and deception, and ability to manipulate, that she will forever be remembered as a great cast member of the show.
She had such a limited run, though, I feel, and I feel like people were on to her instantly. I mean, the greatest thing about her season and her run on it was how long people knew she was a traitor and clearly knew, like production couldn't even hide it, and yet she still managed to like hang on after several weeks just through some manipulation like that. That was impressive. I think that a lot of it though is just like again, like her survivor reputation preceded her so heavily that it couldn't help but sort of affect how
Yeah,
people were
which
going
is
to play.
the same thing I was thinking about Boston Rob. Is like, how could they have not known he was a traitor given how much his survivor reputation preceded him?
Yeah.
So isn't that what makes them great? That they come in basically wearing signs that said, "I am the traitor, vote me off." And both of them, Poverty survived nearly to the end. Boston Rob got halfway through the season, despite like there was there was an interview with Alan Cumming was on I think on Jimmy Fallon. He said that the production caught him like after they voted out Wes, um, because the evidence had been so heavy for Boston Rob for weeks. Then when they voted out Wes, he actually went like this and rolled his eyes, and the production said, "Alan, your face, your face," and he had to hold himself because he was so disgusted that they missed that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that like in theory, like I think with the thinking with production and the casting and everything is that you bring in these really big proven gamers who, you know, there's a difficulty curve for them though, that it's not the same game for them because of all that excess baggage. But like, okay, you're playing a harder game than everybody else here. Can you do it? Can you do it, Boston Rob? Like, can you leap through all these hurdles? And like, but it's such a weird game that it's like Boston Rob all told only made it through half of the season, which isn't very long for a traitor.
Yeah.
And I think that just proves like how different this game is from a lot of the other ones. And also,
This is why I have so much affection for the international seasons. It's just really a
mm-hmm.
totally different game when these people come in
Yes.
not knowing who each other are, and they take it much more seriously. And the money actually means something to them, which I don't think should be like underestimated, because those challenges take up like half the episodes, and you're watching them
Yeah.
try to win $2,000, and you're like, none of these people give a shit about this
No.
$2,000.
I don't
Like, I
I
love the
don't give a
U.S.
shit
version.
watching
That's like,
them try to do, you know, like
Yeah.
it's
So Katey, who is your all-time favorite?
Gabby's pretty high up there. I really enjoyed watching her the entire time. Suri, I also like loved in season one, just as like the like steady as she goes, like silent assassin through the whole thing. I mean, maybe that's mostly me remembering the final episode on there. Like, I'm glad that Kate gets to keep coming back. I don't how like Kate can be a production favorite. I don't love her attitude. Like,
no.
whenever she comes back and like hates it and wants to go home, I'm like, that's not what we're here for. Uh but yeah, maybe I'll just put Gabby up at the top because I'm
Okay.
she shows up. She's the only thing I ever see on TikTok anymore, and I love to see it.
Okay. Again, we have a few minutes left here. Again, if you have any questions, write them there at the bottom, and we will get to them hopefully before we go here. Um, and, big question for you. It's something we talked about a lot. What rules changes? The rules here are very much a work in progress, and people have pointed to some big flaws in the rules, that hinder this game. Survive.
We
We've
lost
lost.
Emily. Oh, we can hear
Emily,
you.
Hi,
Oh,
sorry,
there
there
we
you
go.
my
she
power went out
returned.
briefly. So
Oh,
Really?
my internet, I'm on my like cell, which might not be the best reception, but hopefully it comes back in a second.
But you're
Um
safe. You're safe. You can mark yourself as
I'm
safe.
safe, yes.
Good.
Blue skies outside. I don't know why the power went out, but yeah.
Uh, so, like
Um
each of you, tell me the rules changes you would implement to fix
well,
the show.
I think you know, we've alluded to this a few times that as it is right now, and with the Trader Angel strategy, which they don't acknowledge on the show, but which is definitely happening, that there's very little incentive to actually vote out traitors. Like, and it's not ultimately, despite everything they say, it's not a game where you need to get out all the traitors as soon as possible. So I think that, and there have been a lot of different ways to tackle this going forward. I mean, I think also it would be fine to do nothing about it at all. Like, but I think that then the show needs to like be aware of that new meta level of the game and talk about it. But I think some sort of incentive for voting traitors off. I think like
mhm.
if you vote for a trade, if you're one of the votes against a traitor and they're then they're eliminated that week, then you get your own like little separate prize pot that you get on top of the total amount that you can have off to the side. So you are rewarded for having a good voting record. And you can still choose not to vote for Traitors even if you know you're there, but you understand that you're gonna potentially not have as much money if you do that.
Yeah. Or even give them rewards, like if these people don't care about money, like let them like have access to Instagram for 10 minutes or like whatever it is that they want at that point. Seclusion.
That would be interesting. Yes.
It would be fascinating. They'll go live and give us the secrets. I mean, Emily, we were talking before about Joe Reed, who wrote at Vulture, kind of like a really big rundown of how to work these games, and he knows more about these shows than anybody. But what he said about like having the games have something that the traders have to do during the games that's different from everybody else, and have them put themselves at risk of getting spotted, like whether it's like something they have to do so that they can get money, like anything that like makes them act in a weird way. Like the chess game this season I thought worked so well because it was something that like Danielle and Carolyn had to work on together ahead of time. It gave them clues. Like there's got to be ways to make those challenges expose the traders in some way and watch them figure out how to navigate it, and like give us some reason to watch those, because like the temptation to forward the challenges is like so strong sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I did the I did the Traitors experience in Los Angeles.
Ooh. Oh man.
And I played it. I got recruited as a traitor in the middle, and it's like they do a approximation of the game, but it's I think you're in there for all of like 2 hours, so it goes very quickly. But the way that they did it, which I think there's a version of it that could work, was sort of the sabotage version, where there's a goal for them to do X, Y, or Z, and if they make it, then the faithfuls get that money. But if they don't, then that's like in the trader's bank or something. So you have these two separate banks going in a way.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, The Mole is such a model for this, and like I haven't watched that show in a long time, but like you can do something that's like a little less dramatic than that.
Yeah.
Here's my suggestion. In any sort of spy novel or something of that sort, the villain is always looking for leverage against the spy, and the spy, of course, has no attachments. He has nothing that he can come at. He doesn't care about money. He doesn't. But then he will love somebody, and that gives the villain leverage because they take that person hostage or threaten to kill them or say, "We're going to blow up your house." I think for each of the people, they should find someone in their life and say, we not that they'll kill them, but just say, you see, you have this cousin, a second cousin who you might remember, who lives in poverty and everything. We will fund this person's entire education if you win this show, and if you don't, she gets nothing. This 5-year-old's future is hanging on you. How do you like that?
Intense.
Yeah, I think it adds some real drama.
Seems illegal.
Not that will hurt them, just that they will get nothing, and it will have been your fault. Think about that. I throwing that. Maybe it's a different show that we.
I want to point out the comment that's here right now. Somebody says, I think give some of the faithful secret missions to throw off the scent because traitors get eliminated so fast. I think that's interesting. That I don't know if Claudio, if you've only watched this season, but I think the amount of traitors that got found out was high and frequent compared to previous seasons. I think usually it's so heavily weighted in their favor. But I think there was just such a uniquely messy turret this season.
Yeah. They turned on each other so
unusual
fast.
And fun because like usually it's everything is in the trader's favor, but it just wasn't from the word go because of the dynamic in there. Like in general though, who do you like? Would you personally rather be playing as a faithful or a traitor? Not because of like what role you'd want to play, but like your likelihood of winning. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, final question here that we will wrap up. Who would be your draft picks for season 4 of Traitors? Who would you like to see there from anyone in the culture? Doesn't have to be a reality star.
An email from like the odds makers and who they thought it was going to be. I need to look because I don't watch enough reality TV to know.
But it can be anything. It can be a politician. It can be an artist. It can be You can draft anyone onto your Traitors season.
Politician seems like a bad. Don't go down that road.
I mean, no one wants.
I saw somebody mention George Santos in a Reddit thread, and I was like, oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I mean, he would love that.
How do we differ a Traitors performer from a Dancing with the Stars person? Also, that's a
What do you
question
mean?
because because a lot of the people that are sort of scandal figures go straight to Dancing with the Stars
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
everything. So it's
I think it's kind of a good, like, whatever their criteria is on Dancing with the Stars, weirdly is good for Traitors too, because Gabby was also on Dancing with the Stars. So Heather Gay from Housewives of Salt Lake. See, I'm not up on my Salt Lake. I don't watch. Like, I'm trying to think like of the Housewives. I mean, it's interesting because like Robin Dixon was on this season. She didn't last very long. She's from Potomac, Housewives of Potomac. And I was just like, oh my God, snooze. She's so boring on the show. But on Traitors, I thought she really like shone for the weeks that she was on there. I thought like, oh, we get to see like this is actually maybe a better format for her than Real Housewives. But you never know. You never know how people are gonna land in the castle.
They're always getting Olympians on Dancing with the Stars, and I did enjoy Ryan Lochte in his season. So you could do like Ilona Maher. She can go be in the castle.
I feel like Olympians are so boring though. Like Ryan Lochte is a special situation. Like their lives are just by definition just training. Like it's just like I feel like I want to steer away from the athlete scene, even though everybody is always like, oh, do various NFL guys or whatever. I don't know. I don't know.
Ariana Madix was on for the Stars. Should she get her redemption arc after Tom Sandoval did it and everyone?
I would love if she went on. That would be great. Or yes, anybody else from Vanderpump. Honestly, they're all good personalities for it.
How about some newscasters? Like get George Stephanopoulos to go on, or Rachel Maddow. That could be
what's his name with the khakis on MSNBC? Steve Kornacki. Get him on the Traitors.
Exactly. Yeah, people like that. Or podcaster season or
live streamer season.
Yeah.
Good.
Anyway, okay. Very last question, because we try to end on a positive note here, even though we're talking about murder and deceit. What advice, if you had a friend who was going on to Traitors, didn't know whether they would be traitor or faithful, what advice would you give them on how to succeed in the show and how to use the show to propel their own career, their brand?
Confessionals. Explain everything you're doing in the confessionals. Tell us about your game
so that you get more screen time.
More screen time, but also like it just gives us something to hang on to. Like you start to root for people or against people in a more satisfying way if you really have insight into what they're trying to do, even if they're failing at it. I think that was a big problem with Danielle. Like Caroline and I on our kind of reunion episode that we did, we were talking about how like actually the Danielle thing is a marriage of bad gameplay and bad production. Like I don't think she was produced well, and I don't think she was good at doing her own confessionals. So the story, we don't have a really clear story for her. And some of that, yes, is on production, but I think some people are just naturals at narrating their process. And I think if you want to come away feeling like you're America's sweetheart from Traitors, or like the villain America loves to hate, whatever, like you just have to have a story. You have to be able to tell your story.
Yeah.
Katey,
I feel like the key is you get an alliance and give it a name, like, and make everybody kind of fear you. Like there is something, even if your alliance is like all full of faithfuls who don't know anything, like the Peter Pals, the Bambis, like they have like they show this strength in numbers and makes people being like, oh well, we can't get one of them, or like we gotta get one of them, but we don't know who. Like it really it gets people to navigate around you in a way if you've got an alliance, it seems.
Yeah, totally. I think it's like having your band or something in it. You just get like a whole extra identity.
They broke up the Bambies. It was a sad,
They
sad
broke
thing.
up soon.
Well, thank you both very much. It's been a fantastic conversation. We're going to forward this to Peacock and make sure that all our recommendations are instituted.
Well, here's the biggest recommendation, though, and I
yes.
cannot say this enough. And this is the most recent comment in the feed. We need a normal person season in the U.S.
Oh,
Please,
a U.S. normal person season.
a U.S. normie season.
They could even do it like in an off season, like air it in October or something, and then like lead up to the celebrity one.
That castle is going to be booked like 365 days out of the year between UK, US, and Ireland. I don't know if Ireland's shooting there or not, but it's worth it.
I'll tell you. In some interviews on the outside, Jeff Probst has shown a lot of annoyance at how much the hard work of his casting team is being poached by these other shows, which is kind of the point of the show. So that they're saluting. I don't know. I think he's a little touchy about that, but it would really put it on them to see the casting versus casting. What they could do there. I don't approve of normal people. I don't want to see a normal people season.
You will change your tune. You have to watch UK, Richard. It's such a different and like in many ways superior experience, I would say. Also, I was thinking this. I was like, we don't have to keep it in a castle necessarily. Like I've been catching up on the season of White Lotus, and I'm like it should White Lotus is essentially Traitors, and like actors be on White Lotus in the same way that reality stars want to be on Traitors. It's because you get to be a murder mystery for a couple weeks and then walk away and hopefully have some cool character moments and everything. So I feel like doing it as some sort of a resort, like doing that sort of vibe to it, more kind of like Fantasy Island or something, would be really fun.
Traitors in Paradise, someone put in the comments.
Yeah.
But also, I support like putting Gabby on the White Lotus. Like we can do it in reverse. I feel like that would also work really well.
As Jennifer Coolidge's granddaughter.
Yeah. Here's my concept. Peacock, you use this, but must credit. I have to get associate producer credit if you use this. A season that is all '80s metal band survivors. Like the whole season, everybody from '80s metal bands, and they all have really bad blood and bad history between them, and all sorts of things went wrong, and drug and them all pitted against each other. For a prize of you get the headline again at the whiskey for one night.
So just like Decline of Western Civilization 2, but put them on an island.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
And do that. That's my concept. Again, Peacock can use, but must credit. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Rushfield Lunch, episode 2. Next week, we will be an hour later, but because we have the big man himself, our host and leader, Hamish McKenzie, founder of Substack, will be dropping in on the Rushfield Lunch. We'll see what he says about Traitors and about all sorts of other things. So please join, but it will be an hour later. So
okay.
So thank you, Katey. Thank you, Emily, for joining us, and we will see you all soon.
Sounds good.
Take care.
Thank you, guys. Bye.